Hello, and welcome to the Religion Unplugged podcast, your one stop shop for all the best religious news and culture. I'm Joseph Holmes, film and culture critic for Religion Unplugged, and today we have Brennan McPherson with us. He is both the president of the Salvation Poem Project and a longtime creative. After spending years producing faith based media content, Light of the World stands out at the intersection of his passion in art and theology. Light of the World, a new animated movie about the life of Jesus from the perspective of the Apostle John, is in theaters starting September 5th. Brennan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Okay, so first off, I want to talk about you, but I first want to talk about the movie a little bit. With all of the Jesus content out there right now, The Chosen, the Angel Studios King of Kings, even Chris Tomlin got into the act this year with his Last Supper movie. For people hearing, okay, here's another Jesus thing that's out. What sets the Light of the World apart as a project?
A few things. One is that it's traditional hand-drawn animation, like the old school Disney stuff from the 90s and the early 2000s. Another is that it's told exclusively from the viewpoint of a young Apostle John, who in our film is portrayed as a young teen. In early research, we were finding that most scholars generally agree that many of the disciples were likely teenagers. We have some clues in scripture about this, like Peter being the only one to pay the temple tax, and you paid that if you were at least 20, but no definitive answers. And so, it's a unique point of view. It's basically a coming of age story of John learning about the Messiah and being transformed by him. So it makes it unique and different from everything else that's out there.
Yeah, that was something I was really interested in when I was watching the film was that, with all the different portrayals of the of Jesus and the apostles and the disciples, that this was one that had a few that were different from what I've seen before, but still plausible. Like, different people, knowing each other, like Peter being family friends with, these people and having certain relationships with, John's father and things like that. I was like, oh, I haven't seen this before, but I can still buy this. And yes, definitely there is always this idea, this temptation to, okay, we're doing a story for kids. So let's have the kid protagonist with Jesus. But this one, it really felt like it was earned, a lot of it. So there's a lot of I really appreciate the work that went into it in that regard.
Oh, it's really great to hear. I'm glad to get some real feedback. So, it's well appreciated. We worked on this for like almost 4 years, so
Wow.
you get a little in your head after all that time. So it's refreshing to hear a honest reaction.
Absolutely. So now I want to go talk about you. You said you've had a long history in the faith-based multimedia and creative space. What started you on your creative journey? Why did you decide you wanted to go into the creative arts and in faith elements in general?
Well, the faith elements were just a natural extension of me as a person. I mean, it's just the centerpiece of my life, and so it's just natural to want to do things that I mean, art is about um, you know. Contemplating basically the meaning of life and how to live and why we're all here um, in an artistic format. And for me, I believe that that revolves around Christ, and so it's just natural. It's just the thing that I felt like doing. Um, but ever since I was really little, I wanted to be, involved in creative production. And one kind of formative moment was actually watching the behind the scenes Lord of the Rings, like the making of featurettes on the
Yes.
extended box edition, and just as a young kid, like a 13-year-old being mind blown, they made rocks out of styrofoam and, that's how they did this. And so it was always fascinating to me and always have wanted to be involved in creating beautiful things that just speak for me as a Christian, someone who holds Christian values and who values Christ himself as the ultimate reward or treasure.
That makes a lot of sense. I really resonate a lot with that. Certainly, it seems that almost everybody who really is interested in film in a particular generation says the same thing, that watching the DVD commentaries
Yes.
of Lord of the Rings was a formative moment because you had this movie that was of great beauty. It's something of incredible beauty and awe. And then you got to see under the hood and say, oh, there's a way that I could be a part of something that
Yeah.
beautiful. And I
And
really like
no one back then pulled back the curtain like Peter Jackson did on that, you know. Um, First of all, because it was expensive to pay a film crew to document everything while you're making a film. It's
yeah.
ridiculous. But it was, I think uh, just that moment of, oh, this is possible. It's not just magic that it just appears out of
Yes.
nowhere. Like I see the processes now, and that means I can do it too.
Yeah. No, I think people are Hollywood is losing out by not doing DVD commentaries of the new films, losing out on a generation of creatives who could be inspired in that way.
Yeah.
But I also like we said about the faith elements, because again, a lot of times people accuse faith-based filmmaking or faith-based projects, and sometimes, you know, legitimately so. I've done it as well. Of the motivation is
Yeah.
propaganda. Is that okay? Why we're trying to force a message on people,
Yeah.
but for you, we talk about like, no, art is about expressing your reality and the reality you experience internally and how you see the world. And faith is a huge part of that for so many people. And not having faith representation that's quality is means that a whole part of the human experience, a huge major part of the human experience is
Yeah.
lacking, which is why I'm excited by having creatives like you actually get into this space.
Well, it's like with preaching or with any sort of relational interchange, right? You can compliment someone and have a horrible motive and be a total jerk about it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And you can compliment someone and be totally genuine about it. And we pick up on that and we know the difference. And as human
Mm,
beings, one is incredibly offensive to us, and the other is very welcome. It's the same thing with motivations for creating, artistic representations of slices of faith. You can do it for a gross motivation, just like you can preach for a bad motivation, and it's wrong. It's wrong to
yeah.
do that. It is a sin. Um, or you can be genuine about it. I mean, Paul even talks about that. There's some who do it, who preach Christ out of rivalry, envy, for gain, personal gain, and then there's others who do it genuinely. Um, he celebrated that Christ was preached at all, but he obviously made a delineation. There's a
Right.
distinction there that is very, very important and valid. For me, I think, I believe wholeheartedly that propaganda is garbage. And if we believe in the truth, we should never stoop to propaganda. We should tell the truth as we see it and let that convince people. And if it doesn't, that's their choice. Our goal, our duty to Christ is not to convert people, it's to be obedient and preach the word
Hmm.
from a genuine motivation, not out of a desire for selfish gain, which a lot of Christian creative production is made for the purpose of selfish gain. I mean, just be honest, it is. I don't
Yeah.
care what anyone says. I've met people who do this for selfish gain, clearly. Um, it's real, and I think that distinction is important to make because we have to hold each other and ourselves accountable to Christ for our motivations and why we go into making things. And it reflects very poorly on Christ and his followers when we allow that kind of crap to go on. So, anyways, that's my personal soapbox on that whole thing. But people use that to say, well, you should never do anything faith. Well, that's ridiculous. No, it's every bit about the motivation and the quality of the craft. Those matter.
So I love the distinction that you're making, particularly again, our obligation is to obedience, not conversion, because that places, I think that one of the big distinctions for me between art and propaganda, let's say to oversimplify things, is art is actually I'm expressing something true, regardless of what it results is for the audience. Whereas propaganda is more about here's a particular result I want in the audience.
Yeah,
And
I'm
then
going to
I'm
do
going
anything to get that result.
exactly.
That's
Yes.
right.
And so I think that's a really cool distinction that you made.
Well, there's also in propaganda, this in general, most propaganda has an element of untruthfulness to it. That
Right.
it's trying to convince you of something that it doesn't have good reason to convince you of.
Right. But again, I think there are definitely people I know who they're making propaganda, but they do believe that what they're doing
Yes.
saying is true, but their focus is in the wrong place. The focus is how do I tell this in such a way that it will convince these people rather than
Mhm.
how do I simply tell somebody the truth and leave the results up to the Holy Spirit, so to speak.
And if you're making propaganda, you're likely afraid to be open about the truths that
Right.
seem less convenient.
Exactly. Yes.
And people pick up on that, and they say, well, this is garbage. You're not showing the other half of it. And our
Exactly.
duty is to tell the truth and say, no, yeah, there's these other nuances, but this we think is the truth and let it stand.
Exactly. So I want to talk about the Salvation Poem Project and the origins of this project in particular. Well, what was the origins of the Salvation Poem Project, and how did then you decide on telling the story of Light of the World and John?
Well, the Salvation Poem Project was founded by my parents, who wrote a song called The Salvation Poem, which is basically the gospel in a six-line song formatted as a sinner's prayer. The goal was to teach that song to the entire world, just like Mary Had a Little Lamb, only having it be a song that has eternal value and holds the most important central meaning to life. Um, and so that's obviously a more than one lifespan kind of goal. So they crafted the nonprofit. I came into the position of being president about 4 years ago, but the film was really our founder, my father's idea. He's like, I think we need to make this movie about the life of Jesus, and it should be animated. We both felt very strongly it needed to be 2D hand-drawn animation, and we moved forward, and in about 3.5 years, made Light of the World and pulled the team together to make it happen. So now we're releasing it September 5th.
That's fantastic. So I want to focus on the animation aspect of this. First of all, why? You said it was really important to make a 2D animation. Why was hand drawn animation so important? And I'm interestingly, animation in general is not something that faith based projects have really done much of recently, at least since the kind of the Renaissance in the 2000s. Why do you think that is? That well, so why was it important for you guys to do it? Why do you think that the faith based sort of world hasn't gone into animation as much?
On to the last question first. It's extremely expensive and very difficult. That's why. Why did we want to go into it? Number one, it appeals to everyone around the world, to the entire family. So it's broad demographic. Um, in addition to that, why 2D? One reason is because there's very few high quality 2D animated films that are released broadly in theaters in the US. And so right away it would stand apart. Another is that we felt we could really lean into stylizing it and make something that was completely unique, had its own thumbprint. I mean, even the shape language, the shape of the character's hair and everything is based off of the Hebrew alphabet itself. And the colors are drawn from the
Really?
spices available in Jerusalem, in Canaan, in
Oh,
Capernaum.
that's fascinating.
And the alternate art style, the alternate animation style, is actually inspired by a historical Jewish art style. And so everything is drawn from the culture of the people at that time period. There's even music in the wedding sequence that is played off the instruments they actually had then and is a song they had and knew at that time.
Wow.
So we really drew from the culture, and using 2D animation, we could really stylize it and make that just its own unique fingerprint in a way that we couldn't in other mediums. And then on top of it, we love hand-drawn 2D animation, and it lasts pretty much forever. You go back and watch Bambi. I showed my kids, I got an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old. I showed them both Bambi. They loved it, watched the whole thing, no complaints. That was released in the 1940s, and it still looks gorgeous today because it's art done by human beings. And in an age of AI, uh, AI can't do hand-drawn 2D animation like a human can. It can do Pixar CG type animation easier than it can do the hand-drawn. And we wanted something that was very human, just from like a faith perspective. We wanted a human expression of worship where you saw all the flaws, all the individuality of the painter in the brush strokes of the paints. It was important to us to actually make something that we were really proud of that excited us artistically.
Absolutely. What was something as you were going through the process that really surprised you that you didn't expect, or that really excited you that you got to see come together?
One thing that surprised me and excited me eventually was just how terrifyingly collaborative animation is. You've got
Wow,
hundreds and
yeah.
hundreds of people, and they're all doing their own thing, and you don't know what's going to come from it. And to a
Mm.
certain extent, you can't control that. Um, and so it was wonderful seeing all the beauty that came out of that, and it was terrifying seeing the madness and the chaos of it.
Yes. You do have to do a lot of trust. It's like, okay, I've
Yes.
done the work to make sure everything's been communicated to everyone,
Yeah.
and I've done my due diligence. Like you said, I've fulfilled my obligations, done my part, and then you have to trust that what they
Right.
create out of that
Yeah.
is going to be something beautiful.
And you're on deadline. So they have a week to do it. It takes them 6 days to do it. Once you see it, it's 6 days down the road. There's not time to change it anymore.
Right.
Right? So if you change it and you add another week, that's a week to maybe 120 people's salaries for that
So
one
the
thing.
budget
So
goes up,
budget goes up infinitely if you have problems, and so you're the whole time you're trusting people, and you're giving them what they need, and sometimes you can't tell what exactly they're going to need or what they're going to come back with, and so it's a yeah, it's a crazy process.
That's great. So for people who see this movie, let's put it this way. What would be the thing that you would say that if you wanted to tell people why they should see this movie and what you're hoping that when they see this movie, take away from it? What would that be?
I believe that this film is the clearest and most emotionally resonant gospel presentation that I've seen rendered in film. Um, it's the full gospel. It's not just a shard of it. And it makes sense to a 6-year-old who has zero background in the faith. And that is something that we're incredibly proud of. It was very difficult to make that clear. And everything, every moment in the film is aimed towards making the gospel clear and not just intellectually understandable, but emotionally digestible, if that makes sense. And we think that this film contains something very unique in that. So I would encourage you to go see it, just for that alone, because it's powerful.
Amazing. And do you have any other projects in mind that if this does well and people say, yes, we will give you more money for this, or, or you have, the funding because you're, a nonprofit to continue. Do you have other projects in mind and could you potentially tease what those might be?
We do. We would love to do some live action films. We're working on an interactive game, a hand drawn side scroller adventure game for Steam, and iOS, and Android. So we have our
Oh, that's
own
amazing.
in-house game dev team, and we're also doing multimedia discipleship courses, obviously music and translation work, and some publishing stuff as well. But everything we do is gospel centered. It's gospel focused, and most everything that we do, we give away for free to ministries around the world to do their work more effectively. And so, a lot of projects that we want to do in the future, but it all rests on people buying tickets and going to see this film opening weekend next Friday, September 5th.
Fantastic. So, if people do want to, obviously, if people want to see where the Salvation Poem Project Light of the World is playing,
Yeah.
if they want to have more information about it, and they just want to know more about your organization and keep up with future projects, where can they go? What's the best way to get in touch with you and find out more information?
Go to lightoftheworld.com. And when you go there, you can hit the tickets button and find showtimes near you to go buy tickets, or you can look through all the behind the scenes making of videos that we've done. There's a free children's curriculum for Sunday school and for homeschoolers. There's a lot of goodies and giveaways and stuff there. And you can follow us on socials as well from lightoftheworld.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brennan, for joining us today. And thank you, all listeners, for joining us today. Remember, you are listening to the Religion Unplugged podcast, your one stop shop for all the best religious news and culture.